going to be done in just 2 seconds. And then we got...
Sean's going over his French Open bracket.
Birdie,
I
Goldis,
got lazy. Didn't have time.
Djokovic. Okay. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of the final 8. It's not that good. I'm kind of disappointed in myself. When we do 16, we go back like 1 round. We'll just hit round 4.
Alright, right there.
And that'll be done. Okay. Where I started. There we go. Yeah, that Lahoyevich guy, fuck. He screwed up my entire bracket. Alright, got that right. Tommy Haas now. Anderson Frere, I did watch that this morning. It was a good match. Wawrinka totally effed me hard. Bitch. We got Gasquet and Murray. Did I have that? That was Verdasco. Fuck.
Oh, Roger Federer.
Yeah, Fed, whatever. I got Burditch Isner, right? That was good. Golbus, Federer. Had Golbus and Federer. Picked Federer. Fucked me over. Ranich, Granolers. I didn't pick Granolers. And it was Zonga, Joe Willie, and Djokovic. Okay, so I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of 16 and 5 of 8. I feel like I could have done worse.
That sounds pretty good to me.
With like Wawrinka going out and Federer fucking me over, I could have done much worse. But I did have Gael Monfils in the final 8. I'm pretty happy about that. That was like my sleeper upset pick. He's like the 23rd seed. So, all right, we're good to go. I'm only gonna touch on that anyway. So.
No, for sure, for sure.
When was the last time it was just me and you? It's been a while.
Oh man, it's been like a couple months.
It's been a very long time.
All right.
Boys are back.
Here.
The boys are back. High School Musical.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Hey, welcome back to the basement. It has been a while since it has just been Sean and the Heckler. It's been about a month and a half, maybe 2 months or so.
I think it's been a month and a half.
The last, I want to say, Matt, it might have been 2 months because the last 2 that we've done was the NBA playoff preview with Greg Cotta and the NBA and MLB baseball preview with Greg Wong.
Yes.
Which, by the way, if you go back and look at those, I was worried about the Giants, fearful of the Dodgers.
You're right.
As a Dodger fan, I was mocked in this room.
Well,
because
it was mock-worthy.
It was mock-worthy, but unfortunately, my suspicions have come to fruition.
We're gonna touch on that because we're gonna do a half-season recap. We're gonna bring Greg Wong back in.
Little quarter half-season recap coming up.
I'm gonna talk as much shit to him as possible for Nelly Cruz leading the major leagues in home runs. And he said he was overrated.
And what's dirty is Houston is only about 3 or 4 games behind Seattle.
Seattle sucks. Seattle sucks.
There is definitely I think it was a Carl's Jr. bet on the line right now.
It's either Carl's Jr. in and out. Depends on.
In and out. That's right. It was in and out.
Depends on which one of us wins that we'll pick.
It was in and out. It was in and out. Yes. I am mistaken.
I look forward to rubbing all of that.
I am mistaken. But but like I said, it's been about 2 months. Mm-hmm. But we're back on Monday. Today is Monday. It is all back to normal.
Yeah, normal slot.
Monday day. In the basement here in Studio A.
It's good.
When we last joined us, I guess we were talking about the NBA playoffs. I had high hopes for the Warriors. They took it to 7 games. Unfortunately for them, Donald Sterling's a racist, and Clippers galvanized themselves.
Even you.
And you know what? I'm gonna go with that until proven otherwise. Anyway, so that Clippers went by, but here we sit about a month later, and we are where we thought we were gonna be, basically.
Yes.
Miami Heat versus the too old, too slow. This has got to be the year that they are done.
Finally fall apart.
Best record of the NBA, San Antonio Spurs.
But they're here.
But they're here, exactly. And, if I'm the Heat, I'm extremely both happy and just disgusted out of my mind that I am looking across the way and it's the Spurs.
I agree.
Because here are the Heat. They're looking to three-peat.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to be the like fourth team in NBA history or something to three-peat. And the first ones to three-peat were the insane Celtics of the 60s or 70s, wherever it was, when they won 8 in a row, 9
like
in a row.
10-peat or something, yeah.
I think they won like 8 in a row and like 10 of 12.
Yeah, I think
something,
they skipped a year, then won like 3 more.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, Bill Russell, that was
But
cheating.
the other two, they are more in the realm of, well, I mean, it's really 3 teams in it, but
yeah.
Two of the teams are the same team,
Yeah,
kind of.
Same kind of group, same core,
But,
basically.
The Heat, their legacy isn't really going to be against those dominant 8-peat Celtic teams or the 80s Laker teams where it was like 5 championships in like 10 years.
Nope.
While losing back and forth to the Celtics and things like that.
It's going to be 2 guys.
It's going to be 2 guys. Michael and his Bulls.
We know them by one name.
Exactly. Michael and his 2 Bulls teams, pre-retirement, and folks, I don't mean the I retired, come back as the Wizard retirement. I mean the real I'm tired
of basketball,
first,
I'm gonna swing it back.
And for the YouTube people, I'm going to do these air quotes. The first, I retire, and this is not a suspension for gambling retirement. And then after that, when he came back, wore 45, and they three-peated again just to be like, hey,
I can still do
this.
I'm still the best.
I'm Michael, these are the Bulls. And you're right. The other one is Kobe.
Yep.
He also could have had 2 teams, but those pesky. I was gonna say those pesky Detroit Pistons.
Well, them too, but really,
though that back end.
Yeah.
I don't think they were very favorites in the back end of that three-peat.
They weren't.
The front end of that three-peat, where they lost that first one and they went back to back.
Yes.
That was the one to have against the Pistons.
The 04 series, they should have won. They should have won that series.
They just couldn't. And that's one of those things where if that was the Bulls, they would have probably swept. If it was the Spurs, and I hate to say this, they probably would have swept. But it was that kind of weird Kobe.
I think more of it had to do with just Chauncey Billups just saying, "Look, I want history to remember us." Do you remember how good he was?
I know, I do, but I really do think it was just that beginning of the end of the Lakers. I think when they lost that one, they won the back-to-back. Then they kind of lost that fourth. It should have been 4 in a row, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they broke apart.
And then Shaq went to Miami.
Yeah, and then there was tears. And
it was Gary Payton's fault. It wasn't Carmelo. It was Gary Payton's fault. I still can't stand Gary Payton.
Oh, and
they should have won.
I think I've said it on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, shout out to Dan out there. He never lets me complain about that one.
Yeah.
Because he says, hey, that's your guys' fault. And when he says your guys, he means us as collective Laker fans. Me, you. Because in a sense he's right. Because he said everyone is like what you thought. You said it out loud. No one else did. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, what did you wish from day one when Carmelo signed? And I was like, well, and he's all, no, you're gonna soften this up. And he goes, you wished that he helped you guys win all the way to the playoffs. And then when he got to the playoffs, he was ineffective, and the Lakers won despite him being there. Yeah. So that forever and a day, you and all the Laker fans can say, yeah, Karl Malone got his ring, but whatever, he didn't help. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. And he goes, and because of that, instead of him being ineffective, he basically landed weird for the first time in his career and injured his knee, and he was never the same again. And if you remember, when they injured that knee, they were 18-1.
Oh, they were amazing.
They were basically having the start of the conversation of like, ooh, are they going to catch 70?
Yeah, this is going to be like
a
legendary team.
He does that weird fadeaway. I remember in my mind's eye. Fadeaway, he's in the best shape of his life. Yep. His knee bends really weird one way, and then he's never the same again. And, I remember a lot of those spots in that championship game where he had to lay it up and either missed or got blocked by Chauncey Billups. Or not Chauncey, Tayshaun Prince.
Because he just didn't have the explosiveness.
Because he didn't have the explosiveness anymore.
He was done. He wasn't the mailman anymore.
And, I was just sitting behind. And I just sat there watching the TV going, he was just... Yeah. He wasn't the... Hold on, say that again. He wasn't the mailman anymore. He was what?
He was sitting behind the desk at the post office. He wasn't making deliveries
anymore. I feel like Sean needed to say that again because I almost stepped over that line in my rant there.
I do love Karl Malone, but
I
should have won that one.
And you know what? For me, it was double-edged sword.
Yeah.
We lost, the Lakers lost, and I was upset about that. But Carmelo had to retire, and he couldn't break Kareem's record.
Yep.
So to me, I was like,
It was a-
you know, I
it
was
was
like,
a
I'll trade it.
win-lose, yeah.
And people go, that's very like petty, Dave. And I'm like, yes, you know what? I'm a Laker fan. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
When
It's
you're a Laker
Carmelo.
fan, it's Kareem.
I'm like, I'm that petty.
Yeah.
You know, like.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But anyway.
Yeah.
So LeBron, I'm not gonna even say Dwayne Wade because like Dwayne Wade when he won that one with Shaq, and then LeBron chose to come to Miami.
Yeah.
I think his legacy was sealed. Like he didn't have to leave. Like he didn't have to go to Cleveland, or like they all didn't meet somewhere in Chicago, but they came to his team. You know what I mean?
So
Like
you're saying his legacy's already sealed?
his legacies are sealed. Chris Bosh.
What if they win?
Well, then he. I think it's elevated a little bit.
He won one on his own.
On his
Look,
own.
Shaq was great in that NBA Finals, but Dwayne Wade averaged
Basically
like
won it.
36
He
points a
basically
game.
won it.
And then he'll three-peat.
He was the model. He was the model for Dirk Nowitzki going nuts.
He was.
Yeah.
He laid the groundwork of,
But-
look, you have to do it by yourself.
But I think that Dwayne Wade has been used as such a complementary piece in the way they rest him and everything throughout the back-to-back as well as this year.
Yeah.
That to me, yes, like he three-peated, but not really. He kind of did his thing and let LeBron be like LeBron for like 2.5 years.
And
You know?
I completely
And-
understand it, but I hate that narrative.
And I know, but
Because Dwayne Wade is still really fucking good.
And the thing is, I'm not diminishing Dwayne Wade at all.
I know you're
I
not.
just think,
And neither is that narrative.
He's already. I feel like if they don't win,
Yeah.
he doesn't descend from where he's at.
He won't come out unblemished, but not as
But he's-
blemished
but
as
he's-
what LeBron
but he's
and Bosh
set.
will.
Like
Yeah.
he's set for his career,
I agree.
whereas LeBron, he's still like building ladders upwards, you know.
Put it this
and
way.
like it's easier for him to like slide down a little bit.
LeBron's still chasing.
Yes.
Dwayne Wade's got his.
He's got his.
He's got his. He's got his
And,
money.
and when he came into the league, he wasn't going to be the next like Michael. He wasn't going to be the next Kobe.
He was
whatever.
a part of this fantastic draft class that had
Yep.
potential.
Yep.
And now he has the most rings from that draft class. It's Dwayne Wade. It ain't LeBron. It's not Bosh. Carmelo's never won one.
Yeah.
I think you're right about that. That if they do falter in this series, that Dwayne Wade's legacy is somewhat sealed. I think it could fall down just a little bit because the narrative will be that he was broken down the last couple of years.
I think it would have changed
Yeah.
had he when he went to Chicago for that huge free agent pitch before he came back with all the secrets and which was like why would you anyway
By all accounts, that was a pretty tempting free
Why-
agent pitch.
why would you tell and I would if anyway you know what before we continue if I was Chicago that year I would have demanded to go last. You let Miami give him an offer before he gets on the plane to your city. And that way you can say, that's their offer. Well, you know what's waiting for you on the ground? This much more.
Yeah.
And he would have never left Chicago. LeBron would have came there. Maybe they wouldn't have gotten Bosh. But it wouldn't have mattered. As long as you got LeBron on your side during that initial, you're going to win, you're going to be here.
LeBron, Rose, Joakim Noah,
And Dwayne Wade.
Wade. And then I guess Taj Gibson still would have been there.
All those guys would have just...
Healthy. But
they would've-
healthy Derrick Rose.
But you know what? It wouldn't have even mattered for it to healthy
it
Derrick
would've.
Rose. No,
It
it
would've.
would have.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're talking about healthy or unhealthy
Yeah.
if those two come because all he has to do now is be a facilitator.
Which is something he could do, but he doesn't like to do. I love what ifs
But at the
more
same
than
time,
anyone,
you know what? He would have been Russell Westbrook before Russell Westbrook because all he would do is facilitate. But every time down the floor, he would have been so wide open. He would have had like 15 shots a game.
Yeah, he
anyway,
would've done it by
sorry,
himself.
don't crash Chicago. I didn't mean to bring up that because I'm sure that hurts more than Cleveland than anything like that.
No, nothing hurts more than Cleveland.
I know.
Nothing hurts more than Cleveland.
Hey, he got you to a finals.
Yeah. And then swept.
But you didn't give him any help.
Andy Varejao, baby.
Booby Gibson and Andrzej Verja, whatever.
Sasha Pavlovich.
and-
The Big Z, Zadrunas.
Do you listen? You heard this, right?
Anthony Parker, Candace Parker.
That team was in the finals.
Yeah. Mo Williams was on that team, though, too. Wait, was he on that team? I don't think he was on the finals.
Not the Eastern Conference Finals.
The NBA Finals.
The NBA Finals.
That's how bad the Eastern Conference was that year.
And LeBron was a man-child.
Yes, well, he still
Remember,
is.
Remember that overtime game against Detroit?
Oh yeah.
Where he went back behind his
the
back,
and
hit a
Chauncey
three,
was just like, "Oh, I can't do anything."
and then
about
like
this.
he hit a three, and then like they interviewed him. I would say like a couple months later or whatever, and they're like, "What were you thinking?" And he was like, "I was thinking I didn't know I could do that, but thank God I could."
Yeah,
and I heard that, and I was like, "Anyway,
that was a game he had.
That's the legacy.
Like 27 of the final 28 points or something.
Exactly.
Like that.
He
was amazing.
He said, "Hey Cleveland, you better give me a really good pitch."
Yeah.
But LeBron, that was bad for him the way he did it. Anyway, that's the legacy he's chasing though. He's got to be the next, 3, whatever. I don't even want to give him a position. I feel like he's just a Magic Johnson. He's just a big point guard.
LeBron has no position.
But he's
no
the LeBron position.
Yeah.
He's the Rover.
Yep.
You know what? He's what Phil Jackson and Tex Winners called Jordan and Pippen. They didn't really have positions on defense. They just called them the pit bulls on defense. And I used to wonder what that meant. And there was an interview that I found on YouTube somewhere. I think it's Tex Winners. Check out Tex Winners talking about the triangle offense, and then he goes on to like a little bit of defense. And he said that the team defense was the other three guys play like a matchup kind of zone, but you had to play man then, so you couldn't do that. But like you basically have the man perimeter, and Scotty and Michael would make up for any mistake. He said, and then he looked at the camera and he said, "Any mistake."
It's basically a triangle in two.
Yeah, basically.
You put the three guys in a set system, and you have two all-world defenders, and they clean up everything. Yeah.
And if you go back to those '90s Bulls teams, they were basically playing a zone. But they were so good, it was man-to-man hidden,
Everyone could lock down their man pretty well.
Which is kind of how the Heat are right now. But anyway, so Spurs Heat. That's what the legacy... And then you know the great part of the story is? On the other side in the West, there's a whole different chase going on.
Oh, yeah.
It's not about Michael and legacy of that kind of thing. Tim Duncan is trying to get Kobe Bryant out of his conversation. That's what he's trying to do. That's what he's trying to do.
They'll always be put together.
I know. And same thing with Kobe. If he wins one more, they'll always be put together. But Duncan now realized last year, and I don't think he's ever admitted this to himself until Ray Allen hit that shot in Game 6.
Mm-hmm.
He does care about his legacy. I mean, way more than he gives himself credit for. I think he's bought I think over the years, he's bought into his own hype of kind of being like, chill, relax, I'm Tim Duncan, like I'm the best
from the Virgin Islands.
I'm the best, power forward, in the history of the game.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up basketball until I was like 16. Like I'm chill. But I think last year he realized, oh wait, I am like this close to the end of my career, and also this far away from Kobe Bryant in the legacy talk.
Mm-hmm.
Like I need one more. And I think he knows the hunger is real, but I think last year he realized it still kind of did that, like gnawing in you.
I think I agree.
You could tell this year.
I agree with that to an extent.
You could tell the way he played this year.
He cares about legacy, but it's not his legacy. It's the Spurs' legacy. It's his legacy with Pop. It's his legacy with Tony Parker and Monte Ginobili. That's what he cares about more. From all accounts, Tim Duncan is the most unselfish superstar that has ever played in this league.
For sure.
As much as he does, and there's no way he doesn't care about what Kobe did and the numbers like that, but he cares way more about that.
This year, though, he's shown a lot more outward emotion during games.
I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that the outward emotion isn't solely from his legacy perspective. He cares about this Spurs team.
No. Not at all.
They're viewed in history.
I'm just thinking, though, that, like, last year, kind of, like, I don't know. I just saw something change in Tim Duncan.
Yeah. He was
from what
pissed.
You said. That post-game interview.
Pissed.
Like, from the minute that guy asked him, like you said.
Are you thinking about retirement? He's like, fuck you, no. I'm coming back to beat the shit out of these guys.
Yeah, and best record in the NBA, here he is.
And now he's got a chance.
Exactly.
I don't think that's ever happened before, that a player has had the chance to win a championship, and he did. He missed a bunny layup at the rim with about 10 seconds left, and when he missed it, he slammed the floor, and like you said, he does not show emotion. That was the most emotion we've ever seen from him. And after the game, the guy asked, are you thinking about retirement? And he looked at him like, no.
Yeah.
Why would you ask me that? I'm coming back next year.
You know what's even dirtier to think about? Like, if you're the NBA, maybe not the Heat,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're the rest of the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
and you're sitting there watching that post game news conference, and the first question that guy asks is that, right? You're like, whoa, what's his answer going to be? And Tim Duncan kind of gives him that death
And when
glare,
he gives it, you start trembling.
and you give that answer, you're like,
Well, shit.
God damn it!
Yeah.
Like, well, thank you, because like, I mean,
We're rebuilding for another year.
Right? Not that he would have, right? But
yeah.
maybe if that question isn't asked, he lets it brood for a while, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
get it off his chest like he just did, just like that for that brief second.
Yeah.
And he thinks about it the whole summer, and yeah, he wants it, but like
You
maybe
think
he doesn't verbalize
You think
it.
he'd retire?
No.
Okay.
No. I think he'd come back,
Okay.
but I think we would have not seen that the outward Tim Duncan that we're seeing right this year.
The question was kind of just like.
'Cause I think that without that question though, I think that pain and would have like kind of bottled himself in, and he would have been the same, inner drive Tim Duncan.
Yeah, but then
I think that question kind of like left the kind of sore festering a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I think he finally had, because I don't think any of those other losses really left a chip on his shoulder.
No.
Because he never missed the bunny.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like they never had it right there in the grasp. It's
From
always
his
like,
perspective,
yeah.
he lost that game.
Exactly. So I think for the first time in his career, even through college,
Yeah.
he had that chip going into the offseason where a lot of the players that, like Magic said when he lost a couple of titles, he'd be sitting poolside drinking a lemonade, and all of a sudden he'd see Worthy open in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh wow. Like
It stays with these
like
guys.
ooh, and Tim Duncan finally had a moment, and you can say that he had a moment like that after Fisher.
Oh, no.
and things like that. No,
Nothing-
that's not the
nothing
NBA Finals.
touches that.
That's not the NBA Finals. That's not literally a millisecond away from like holding up another trophy, possibly another MVP trophy,
Yeah.
and then who knows? You're the one going back to back this year.
Yeah, I think from his entire career, that inner drive has been something that everyone marvels about. And I've come to respect Tim Duncan. I still don't like him very much. I'm not a big Spurs
Agreed.
fan, but that inner drive has driven him to become a first ballot Hall of Famer and arguably the best power forward of all time. But I think that question was kind of just an incident of guy just kind of poking at him, just saying, "Are you thinking about retirement?" And he gave that answer. But I think even without that question, and even if he would have gone back to the U.S. Virgin Islands and just chilled and brooded and just been like, "Oh my God, I can't get this out of my head," and then he would have relaxed. The day he would have come back to training camp, he would have seen Greg Popovich. And Sports Illustrated did a cover article about that shot, Ray Allen's shot in Game 6. And they interviewed a lot of people, and Greg Popovich was one of those people interviewed. Now, if you know anything about Greg Popovich, he doesn't do interviews. He hates the media.
Yeah.
And he did this interview, and they asked him, like, it was a basic question, like, what are your thoughts about that shot? And he said, I can't stop thinking about it. I think about it every day. At least once a day, that shot pops into my head, that if we could have just grabbed a rebound, and then he just, like, stopped mid-sentence, just went, ugh. Even if Tim Duncan would have gone home and found a way to just relax and, just relied on that inner drive, the day he would have seen Popovich and how pissed Popovich was, Tim Duncan would have, everything would have happened the same way.
All right.
They would have been the monster that they were this year, and I still believe that they would have ran through the West and come back to the finals, because when you have a mastermind like Greg Popovich, when you have an elite point guard like Tony Parker who controls the game from every aspect, when you have a ridiculous freak athlete like Kawhi Leonard is, which he's not getting talked about enough, but Kawhi Leonard is a freak.
By the way, San Antonio fans, someone needs to buy Manu Ginobili a coffee or something when he gets back home, because really, I believed it, and I'm just like, I was actually working when he hit that three.
Yeah.
So before I look at it, I look at the TV at one point. It's Thunder up by 2, right? With like 20 seconds to go,
it wasn't
or
long.
something. I look down to do some dishes behind the bar,
And they're up 1.
and then I look up and I see Tim Duncan kissing Manu on the top of his bald head, like with his bald spot on his head,
bald spot.
and like rubbing his head. I was like, oh, he must have made something. And then it flashed just scored, and I was like, really? You let him hit a 3?
From the top of the
Like,
key,
you let him hit a 3.
As fresh a stroke as Manu has ever had, just that little, just the flick.
There are, I'd say, in my mind, 5 people in the history, in my lifetime, that you like you don't leave open
In the last,
seconds. I'll even say 0.4 seconds of the game.
You're not adding Fisher to this list, are you?
Dude, he's hit a pretty...
Oh, God.
The Thunder would
Give me a
disagree.
list.
Robert Horry, Steve Kerr, Monty Ginobili, Kobe Bryant, and I'm pretty sure in the playoffs, Derek Fisher.
You're such a Laker fan.
I love him, but that's just... It's because he hurt the Spurs so much. It just... But maybe you take away Derek Fisher, but those 4 other guys, you just don't leave open or give a chance to hit anything open.
Yeah.
Because they have the credentials of like, hey, here's my badge for the clutch shot and the 3-pointer and the 25-footer and...
I'll be taking the ball and making the shot.
Yeah, right. Like, hey guys, I'm shooting.
Yeah.
I mean, just like Detroit, they would have had a ring had Rasheed Wallace just defended Robert Horry on the inbound pass.
Ask the Kings if they would have defended Robert Horry from the top of the key.
Forget defend. Grab a rebound.
Yeah.
They grab a rebound and...
They tipped it out.
Well, I know, but I'm saying is if you grab the rebound, right, then you know what? Even though the Lakers lose, I don't have to hear for 10, 15 years about how bad the officiating was. Because if you grab a rebound, the Kings win. They go to the finals. They win their one title against the 76ers. The 76ers were horrible. Yeah. And there you go.
Yeah. And just to add to your list, Fisher, whatever. I love Derek Fisher, and that point forward was amazing. But you can't leave off Ray Allen. Just because of that one shot. That might be the greatest shot we've ever seen in NBA history. You can't leave Ray Allen off that list. Can't do it. He's on that list.
Yes.
Especially playoff-wise.
Yes.
He's on that list.
It really is Ray Allen, Robert Horry, Steve Kerr,
John Paxson.
I
love you, Michael Jordan.
Oh, man.
John Paxson and Steve Kerr. They're a big help.
Hey, Bobby Hansen, you were famous because of Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Craig Elo.
He's more famous in a bad way, though.
Oh, in a horrible way. Even if that guy would have gone on to have a solid NBA career, that was his moment.
No, he did.
Oh, then that was his moment. That's why people named Craig Elo.
He had an all-star career.
And no one will ever know. No one will ever give a shit because Michael Jordan owned him.
You know who Craig Elo's career is kind of... Oh, wait, no? Yeah, okay. You know what Craig Elo's career is kind of like?
What?
The 2 defenders on Dallas that had their backs turned when Dwight Clark caught the catch. I don't even know the names, but clearly in every shot that you have in video and picture, they just look like this.
Yeah.
And you can see just a number right here, and you're like...
Did you ever see that Gatorade commercial where they flipped the switch and
everything reverses?
And everything missed, so Michael missed the shot on Elo. Montana threw it too high and Dwight Clark missed it. Yeah. I forget what the other one was, too, but there was another play. But
must be nice to be in a Gatorade commercial like that, though.
Yeah. Fuck the Cowboys.
Oh, man.
Anyway, all right, Manu in the clutch. You don't leave him open. I agree.
So, I guess this whole almost 30-minute rant about not really the Heat
just
or
NBA.
the Spurs, the NBA.
Just basketball 101.
7 games?
Oh, without a doubt. You know what?
I guess we'll just start there. 7 games?
I'm praying for 7 games.
Okay.
I've wanted this series since Tim Duncan's press conference after the game.
Now,
I've wanted this series.
I'm going to ask you this, and this does not mean that whoever you pick, the team's going to win.
No.
Who's the MVP? We're going to go this way. We're gonna go 7 games. We're gonna pick the MVP.
Well,
I'm gonna say 7 games as well.
All right, because this is good that we've been talking about past championships too. If in this era of the NBA, the last time that it happened was Chauncey Billups because Detroit just didn't really have a superstar. But as an NBA team, if you win the NBA title, your best player, regardless of really how they perform in the NBA Finals, as long as they didn't suck, is going to get the MVP. The second championship the Lakers had, most recently, Pau Gasol should have been the NBA Finals MVP.
Yes.
Not Kobe Bryant. But they gave it to Kobe because
he's the best player.
It's Kobe's Lakers. Pau Gasol was the fucking MVP of that NBA Finals. Without him, they wouldn't have even come close.
And that's why the NFL is such a great league, because in the Super Bowl...
Bruce Smith.
I was going to say, Jerry Rice won his MVP. There's defenders that won MVPs.
Yeah. NBA is different. It comes down to superstars. So if Miami wins, I don't see any way LeBron doesn't get MVP.
How about this? Can you see a scenario in which the Spurs win by 7 and LeBron, let's say, goes averages 40
Just
plus
nuts.
and just goes nuts out of his mind, but just
and they give him the MVP.
and they give him the MVP.
If they lose,
in a losing effort,
never happen.
like
I don't.
even if he's like almost triple
If
double
he's like the
type
best player in NBA Finals history.
like the best stat line
No.
by any one person in the history of the NBA Finals for a 7-game stretch, and say each game comes down to like overtime and last shot and out of LeBron's control. Like basically one of those. It was out of LeBron's control in the end of those 4 Spurs wins, because let's say they got the last shot of the game.
Yeah.
No real.
Well, let me stop you right there. The reason he wouldn't get it is you just said it was out of LeBron's control. If he were to win MVP, people would have to say he had control the entire way, even if he lost. So I don't think we'll ever see it.
I mean,
I don't think we'll ever see a losing team get an MVP.
I'm saying out of his control, as in like he didn't get the last shot because he couldn't.
Oh, I know what you meant. And LeBron's critics find any
Oh,
split second of issue.
I mean, I'm not his biggest critic, but like I am sort of critical of some things that LeBron does.
It wouldn't happen. He wouldn't win MVP if he didn't win. But if they win, without a doubt, he's getting MVP. And I think
50 points a game.
No. I'm telling you, it'll never happen. A losing team will never get an MVP.
Averages a triple-double.
Nope. As unbelievable as it would be.
7 games averaging a triple-double.
Well, let's just say this. If he has 7 games averaging a triple-double, Miami ain't losing. They're not going to fucking lose if he averages a triple-double. Whatever. If the Spurs win, I think either Tony Parker or Tim Duncan would win. I don't think they'd give it to Manu. I think Kawhi Leonard will end up being one of the more valuable players in the series.
Well, yeah,
he's
going to be guarding.
But he's going
to be guarding LeBron.
And I think at some point they just need to recognize, look, the MVP is Greg Popovich. If Spurs win. I think they should just give him every trophy possible.
Yeah.
I think it comes down to LeBron or Tony or Tim. So
so just gut feeling, who is your MVP out of those 3?
Tony. Because I think the injury kind of helps. Not many people are expecting much from him. So I think if he plays like Tony Parker, I think he could have a thing. I said this before the year that it was going to be Spurs Heat. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I'm saying I've said this it was going to be Spurs Heat, and I flip-flopped when we did our middle of the playoffs preview. I switched my pick from Indiana to Washington. I picked Washington to win. If I hadn't have fucking done that, I would have gotten the playoffs perfect. And I'm really pissed. Because when we started the playoffs, if you look at it right now, I would have been perfect. But I switched, and I picked Washington because I trusted them. I trusted Trevor Ariza. And Indiana somehow
they came. There was one game.
I know.
It was not even game 7.
No, it was like game.
It was like 5 or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Where they had the 15-point lead, and this is Washington.
They just couldn't win.
And it got extended to 20, and I thought to myself, wow, Indiana's going to get blown away. And then I came back to the game like 20 minutes later, and it was a game.
Figured it out.
And it was a game.
Figured out how to do it.
And
so I'm pretty pissed about that. I shouldn't have gotten off the Indiana bandwagon.
Quite so early.
It was bad of me. I should have stuck to my guns. And it's the problem of going round by round rather than just filling out your bracket like the one I got here.
I also agree. I think Tony Parker MVP.
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, see, this one's really difficult to really root for anyone. I think in this NBA Finals, just because I'm just wired that way to hate both sides.
I'm more rooting just for 7 games rather than rooting for a team because I don't like the Spurs. I never have. As a Laker fan, we're not allowed to like the Spurs.
You know what?
I've always liked the Heat.
This would be the equivalent of the Red Sox and the Giants in the World Series for me, because I hate the Giants and
you don't hate the Heat that much.
I hate Spurs like I hate the Giants.
I know.
And I kind of have a disdain for the American League East enough where it would be like the Heat in the Eastern Conference.
I guess.
But my baseball ties run way deep, and the hurt.
Very deep.
I feel the hurt way more. Anyway,
I'm going Heat in 7.
Heat in 7.
I've had that since the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with it. And Game 7's on San Antonio's court, and I think that'll be the final nail in this three-peat that LeBron wins it. And he wins it in a Game 7 on the road in a place where he got his ass swept in 2007. And I think he just holds up 3 fingers like Dwayne Wade did last year. And he just says, look, I got mine. Thanks. Thanks for coming. And I think if the Spurs lose, I think we're going to look at
Retire? Are people
Not
retiring?
Not retirement. A little bit
No.
of a rebuild. And this is where I'm going to change from NBA Finals talk. We're going to come right back to it.
How do you rebuild that team? His
name's Pau Gasol, and I believe he'll be playing center for the San Antonio Spurs next year.
He's not a free agent, is he?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Oh, he is.
Wow.
Oh, he is. He's given a list of teams he wants to play for.
So wait, hold on. Here we go. For those of you guys that haven't grasped this on your brain yet, listen to what he just said. One of the greatest passing European centers.
One of the most talented big men we've seen.
Well, but I just want to stress European centers in the game with great passing ability
Rebound.
is going to go to an NBA team basically built like a European basketball team, which lacks what? A very talented big man
a center
that can make Tim Duncan go like this and play for 5 more years, possibly.
Pal's going to go to the Spurs. No. And if he doesn't, then I don't see him going to Memphis. That's another team on his list. I think Zebo is going to stick around. They've already talked about a contract extension.
No.
I could see him going to Miami, too. I think Miami could lure him, or he'll stay with the Lakers. But I really think San Antonio is going to find a way to flip Thiago Splitter into maybe another bad expiring contract, maybe even a second-round pick or something like that. Maybe they could get a trade exception out of him. But I believe Pau Gasol will be on the San Antonio Spurs next year. And
Jim Buss, don't make me start hating you.
Yeah. I mean, it would be bad for the Lakers, but...
Don't make me start hating you, Jim Buss.
That's a perfect...
I'll never hate my Lakers.
It's a perfect replacement for Thiago Splitters. Bring Pau Gasol in. Anyway,
watching you.
We're doing a crazy NBA offseason podcast later because I have a ton of weird conspiracy theories that I know you're gonna love. We're gonna save all of them.
The one thing I will say though, Warrior fans.
Oh, listen up.
You guys are a hot destination for everybody right now, especially. There might be a lot of love in the Bay Area. Which is the rumor.
We're gonna talk about it because I love what he just said. You see what I did there? Teamwork.
All right, so I think
I got Heat in 7. What do you have?
I want to say the Spurs win in 7 just because this whole year has been about revenge and
they're driven.
Yeah.
I've never seen a team driven to play someone as bad as the Spurs want to see the Heat right now.
And I just feel like the Spurs might be the only team right now that could match, player for player, coach for coach, organization for organization with the Heat and on the run. And I mean, if the Heat's run didn't exist, we'd be talking about possibly a 3-peat for the Spurs at this point.
Without a doubt.
So.
Without a doubt, they'd be right there in discussion. I think OKC would be there too. Interesting kind of perspective here, though, with the Spurs having home court. Can you see a scenario where they win the first 2 games, take Game 3 in Miami, and sweep? Can you see a scenario where that happens?
Wow.
Because it's not out of the question.
It's not.
They can win in Miami. Tony Parker hit that crazy run around, Harlem Globetrotter, throw it up.
I tell you what. If in Game 3, because I feel like the Spurs are going to win the first 2 games. That's just the mental makeup right now. Mm-hmm. The whole season is built up to having the best record in the NBA and just not caring about anyone but yourself. Rest the guys as you can. So I think they win the first 2 games. I think what's going to really happen, or if it's going to be a sweep or 7, is if in Game 3, if the Spurs come out was it the Clippers did against the Thunder that one game where it was 21-5
Chris Paul was just like, fuck it, I'm going to hit a bunch of threes.
Yeah. If the Spurs come out and Tim Duncan and Parker and Manu are like, you know what, fuck it, it's going to be
this is our game.
This is one of 2 games that we have left in Miami to close it out.
Yeah.
And not just 7, but to be like, oh, they swept them.
Yep.
And then they come out on fire and the guys like Kawhi Leonard and, Thiago Splitter and people like that don't kind of shy away from the big moment and the big shot early in the game, then I could see a scenario where they win 2 close ones in San Antonio, blow the doors out in Game 3, and then just will themselves in Game 4 and then the NBA is just shocked that they don't get 3 more games. You know.
Do you think the Spurs are the only team that could sweep? Do you think
No.
Miami has any chance of sweeping?
No. If Miami gets 2 in San Antonio, it's sweep. I don't think. I mean, or 5. Sweep or 5. If Miami gets both those games in San Antonio,
Which
the
is
games
not out of the question.
Which is not out of the question. The series is over in 5 because Miami has. I mean, as much as people like to detract on the killer instinct thing, like to always do. Why did he pass it? You know, especially even the last round. Why did LeBron pass it? He had the layup for the tie.
Just to make sure people on YouTube got that, I did an eye roll.
Exactly.
Ugh.
But that's obviously false.
Yeah.
So if
Brilliant basketball player.
I mean, and that's the thing. If everyone on the Heat, like if you see that look in Mario Chalmers' eyes that you normally see in Dwayne Wade and LeBron's eyes in game 1 and 2, if you see it in Shane Battier's eyes, if he's like not talking to the media and hitting threes from the corner,
hitting threes,
and basically like last year, just showing up out of nowhere, and just him and Ray Allen basically carry that team for a 2-game stretch, which is crazy if you think about it, Heat fans. But
it's true.
But if national championship Duke, Shane Battier, and Mario Chalmers, the
National
deadly national championship Mario Chalmers, and just those guys come out like that, I can see them taking 2 in San Antonio, coming back to Miami, and knowing that they need game 3, and then regardless of what happens in game 4, it's over one way or the other in game 5 kind of thing.
I think Battier and Chalmers will play a huge role. I think Norris Cole is a big X factor, but I think the biggest X factor in the series, and I've been singing this guy's praises since he joined the team, Chris Birdman Anderson is the best backup big man in the NBA, bar none.
Oh yeah,
without a doubt.
If he can give Miami 12 to 15 minutes a game, and which he will, regardless of whether it's positive or negative, he's going to give you those minutes. But if he can give you those minutes, and score 8 points to 10 points. Maybe one game have that 16 to 18 point outburst that
it's
he's
not even
known
points,
to have.
Though. It's rebounds.
And I was saying, and
that's
with
what
that,
he does.
and with that, if you can give him 4 to 5 rebounds, in the spurts,
without a doubt.
and then in that one game where he has 16, 10, 18 points, he's going to have 10 to 12 rebounds off the dunks, and and then he'll have in that game also in that one. I always say one game, but in every Miami series, if Birdman it makes a stamp, it's always that one game.
There's a role
where he
game
has 18, 10, 3 blocks, a steal, like a couple of free throws made, and you're like, wow, where's he been? He's sitting 9th on the bench.
Yep. No, I think as good as LeBron is, as good as Dwayne Wade is, as good as Chris Bosh is, they won't
the other 9
series without having a role player game.
Yeah, the other 9, whether they get in the game or not, they're going to be the reason why they three-peat.
Yeah, and they
which
have
is a
to
change. I feel like, well, no, it changed last year.
Mike Miller was a huge part of both
it changed last year. I want to say it transitioned last year in that I feel like they were a team where like they needed the whole team to do well, whereas
they needed the team the first time. They needed the team to beat the Thunder. They needed them.
No, I mean I want to say the first championship run I feel like was more Dwayne Wade and LeBron. That first
still needed Battier's defense.
Yeah,
Mike Miller hit like 7 threes in the last game.
I don't know. I just feel like they've evolved throughout their championship.
Oh, without a doubt, they've evolved,
Yeah.
but they've always needed the others.
Yeah, okay.
They haven't won
Fair
anything
enough.
by themselves.
I guess the recognition is finally coming through.
Without a doubt.
As the glare of the big 3
Without
is
a
kind of like glaring down a little bit.
Norris Cole's played a huge part in both championship runs. He's going to play another big role this time. I think that's how good LeBron James and Dwayne Wade are, and you can throw Chris Bosh into this, that they actually overshadow their teammates even when their teammates are doing really well, when they're doing championship-level things. Like when Battier is hitting threes, you're not talking about Battier, you're talking about LeBron making the expert pass to throw it to him in the corner. That's how good they are. They even overshadow their teammates when they're playing well, and that's part of the brilliance of LeBron and Dwayne Wade. I think for the Spurs side, I think Chalmers, Norris Cole, and Birdman Anderson are huge X factors. I think Battier's going to show up regardless. That's just who he is. But I think on the Spurs side, I think Boris Diaw is a huge X factor. I don't think he'll have anything like what he did in that last game against OKC with 24 points. But I've been watching Boris Diaw since Phoenix days, and I was a huge fan of his. He played really well with Nash and Amari. the Matrix, Sean Marion. Boris is one of those guys who doesn't really have a position. He came into the league with Atlanta as a point guard.
That's
He
true.
was a 6'8" French point guard that no one really knew what to do with him. Then he got shipped over to D'Antoni. D'Antoni figured out how to use him. He's more of like a stretch four kind of non-athletic three that could still guard guys in the half-court game. But he has all of the moves. He can hit three-pointers. He can take you off the dribble from the perimeter. He can also get you down in the post and give you some like Luis Scola, little up-de-do fake and churn to the right and throw that.
Because the Spurs used to have someone like that. I feel like every like 4 or 5 years in this like run of like the last 20 years or whatever.
It's been a while.
You know, they've had that not so athletic, you know, kind of big-bodied but nimble-footed big man that can hit the three, but yet somehow go down in the block and still be a big man.
They had Steven Jackson for a little bit. He didn't. I mean, he wasn't really a 4.
Scott
He was
Padgett?
6'8".
No,
I wouldn't really count him. Jim Jackson was on the team for a while. He's like 6'5".
Bonner, right?
Well, Bonner's still on the team. Yeah, he's like 6'10".
He can hit a three, right?
Oh, that's all he does.
That's
is hit
okay.
threes. Yeah.
But he can also like when really comes down to it, he can still play low on the block every
He
now
can be
and
a
again.
good passer out of it.
Oh yeah, no, he's not drop stepping and doing no dream shake or anything.
Over Serge Ibaka, nonetheless. Ibaka blocked the crap out of him one time. I think Boris Diaw's a huge X factor. If Tony Parker's not Tony Parker, which, I mean, it could happen. Like he was injured. He did not play that second half because he was hurt. It wasn't because they were resting him. He couldn't play. And that's how bad his ankle was. I think Corey Joseph gets a lot of minutes. Patty Mills has been in the rotation pretty much the entire postseason. Has played really well. Patty Mills, he's been in the
little California love there.
in the system
St.
of
Mary's.
San Antonio. Figured out how to play in the system. But I think Corey Joseph's going to play a bigger role because Corey Joseph can do stuff on his own. Patty Mills kind of needs the system to do it.
Yeah.
I think Corey Joseph plays a pretty big role in this series. I don't think Bonner sees that much minutes. We learned last year Splitter cannot play that much against Miami. He just can't. Like they can't use a traditional center against Miami. It's just not the way they play. Indiana can.
Yeah.
Hibbert gave Miami fits last year. I'm not counting this year. But that was the blueprint for Indiana, was to have the traditional center and David West kind of muscling everyone up where you have someone protecting the rim. The Spurs don't play that way on defense. They just don't have that defensive mindset of protecting the rim. Not since the Admiral, really. They really got that done. So Splitter is, I mean, he can't play that much in this series. So it's going to come down to Timmy playing center and Boris Diaw playing a lot of power forward. And the matchup's going to be kind of tough because you could put Bosch on Duncan, but then who do you have LeBron on? I would put LeBron on Kawhi, and then who do you have guard Boris Diaw? Most likely going to be someone like Rashard Lewis. Maybe a Battier comes in and tries to guard Boris Diaw. Maybe Birdman comes in to guard Duncan, and then they put Bosch on Diaw. There's a lot of matchups that are kind of good for both teams and kind of bad for both teams. Like, who do you put Dwayne Wade on? Do you put him on Manu? Because I think Manu could do pretty well against Dwayne Wade, and I don't think Dwayne Wade will, stop Manu.
I just think it's funny how similar both these teams are.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
But in different ways.
Similar
in
but
different
still
ways,
very different because they have the same sort of structures, the same kind of position-wise, this is your role, kind of go from there. But then there's bad matchups. I think Tony Parker on Mario Chalmers is a bad matchup. I think Tony wins that matchup. I think Bosch on Boris Diaw, if that comes to be a matchup, which it probably will be, Bosch wins that matchup. I think LeBron and Kawhi, depending on who shows up, what Kawhi Leonard shows up, LeBron could win that matchup, or Kawhi could really make that interesting. Which, by the way,
he has the body type to definitely body up LeBron.
He was made in a factory to guard LeBron. Let me say this. Kawhi Leonard's job the past 2 weeks and going forward, he just got done guarding Kevin Durant. Now he gets a couple days to rest. Now he has to guard LeBron James. There's no one in the league, mark my words, there's no one in the league that could do that successfully other than Kawhi Leonard. To go from guarding Durant to guarding LeBron.
And you know what?
And he'll do it successfully.
This is going to sound disgusting, but I'm pretty sure if you're Kawhi Leonard, guarding LeBron almost seems like a break compared to guarding
a break from guarding
KD,
Durant. Because that's how they play.
Because like Durant's going to be coming off screens and getting open, shooting the three and bound low, and just everywhere.
Disgusting. It's the way they play.
Yeah.
And I think it's tougher for Leonard to guard Durant. But that's been his job, to guard Durant. Now he has to guard LeBron. More power to you, Kawhi Leonard. You are fantastic. But I think there's a lot of matchups that could be beneficial to both sides from night to night. I mean, one night Kawhi could really win that matchup. The next night LeBron can show up as LeBron and terrorize them. So I think that leads you to think that from night to night things could change. That leads you to think it's going to be 7 games. Because from game 1 to game 2, Boris Diaw can put up the 20 points, and the next night Rashard Lewis comes in and knocks in 4 3-pointers. Matchups are matchups. I mean, like you said, these two teams are very similar. They're also very different. They're built differently. The way they run their offenses is different. The way they run their defense is different. So there's a lot of really good matchups to look at. But I think it comes down to rebounding. That's always been Miami's weakness since they were put together. Rebounding has been their weakness. If Timmy can rebound like we know he can, then that'll be a big plus. And the 3-point shooting. If Marco Bellinelli comes in for the Spurs, which is someone...
I forgot he was even on the Spurs.
It's someone, and I thought he was a really underrated signing for the Spurs when they got him for Chicago. If Bellinelli comes in and hits a couple threes one game, plays the Gary Neal role, which, if anyone remembers last year's NBA Finals, Gary Neal, I think game 2 in Miami, I think he had something like 25 points just like in one quarter. It was amazing. If Bellinelli can play that role, then there's another matchup nightmare. The Bellinelli versus Ray Allen matchup. I mean, there's a lot of nutso matchups that are going to happen. I think Spoelstra's a top 5 coach without a doubt, but I think Popovich is the best coach in the NBA, hands down. And if it comes down to playing the sort of matchups, last year, Bill Simmons kind of talked about this. Last year, it came down to Miami played small.
Yeah.
They played Bosh the 5 and didn't have him anywhere near the rim. They had him playing outside. Battier was kind of playing down the post. And the Spurs couldn't play small. They hadn't figured out how to play small ball. They still wanted to go with Tiago Splitter. They still wanted to go with
they figured it out this year.
That was what Popovich did most of the regular season. Yeah. He fucked with his lineups.
To look at
try different rotations.
He's like, hey, that's a pretty good small lineup.
This is something I'm gonna need come playoff time. And
you know what? Not even
figured it out.
Not even I'm gonna need it for like the regular season or the first round. Just Miami.
And he did it. Time and time again he would play these weird rotations in the regular season. And I think he knows how to play small ball now. And I think that could be the deciding factor in the series. That I could get talked into the Spurs winning the series in 2 seconds.
You know, another thing about
very
Pop,
easily could.
You know how throughout the year, he would just quote unquote randomly, give his star players randomly, right? And I always say randomly because I've as a Laker fan, I've seen Popovich work so much that I know that nothing he does is random. Everything has a purpose, one reason or another.
He has a plan.
And throughout this year, I don't know why this didn't dawn on me, in the last 4 or 5 years since he's been doing it, in the last about 4 or 5 years, but it dawned on me maybe at middle of this year when he did it against the Heat. I was like, I started noticing a trend when you give the stars the quote-unquote random days off. It'd be against teams like the Heat, the Lakers, the Thunder, the Houston Rockets. And here's the thing. Yes, you want to give your veteran guys a day off. But you also want to give your guys that don't really play a lot this playoff atmosphere that's going to be in the playoffs, right? And if you go into LA, or if you go into a Miami, or the Boston or Madison Square Gardens, or into Houston or OKC, their fans are going to be rabid because they're facing the Spurs.
It's a big game.
On top of that, if Duncan and those guys don't play, they're going to be angry they don't get to see them.
Yep.
So they're going to almost get the most hostile road atmosphere that you can get in a regular season game that doesn't really matter for much.
Yep.
And
you see how they respond.
If they respond well, all of a sudden Pop has in his mind, you know what? Down the stretch in this playoff series, I can use Patty Mills because he can come into OKC in a hostile environment and score 14, 15 points, lead them to a win, last second, blah, blah. And it infuriated me when I thought about that because I was like, dang it.
But he's figured it out.
I was like, he's practicing while playing the game.
He figured out how
and
to
here's the thing that what even pisses me off even more about that. 9 out of 10 times when Pop rests his stars, they win the game.
Oh, yeah.
They win the game!
Yeah, because the system. He runs a perfect system. They did it against Portland. I talked about this when
they did it against Miami. They beat Miami with a bunch of...
They had a game where they went up to Portland and he rested everyone. Yeah. And Patty Mills had 30 points in that game and won the fourth quarter. And you could see Pop on the bench like, oh, okay. Now I know.
Because he's like,
Now
I've seen you do that on tape,
Yeah.
and I've seen you do that in St. Mary's.
But
now I saw you do that in Portland.
And now I know.
And now I know, exactly.
And I think another point of it, too, is to not tip his hand.
Oh, yeah.
They have a system, they run a system, but they run it differently with different guys on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you don't want to show the Oklahoma City Thunder on a Wednesday night in January what you're going to be doing against them in the playoffs. Maybe you want to rest some guys.
Oh, my God. You know what? That's true. Maybe you want to rest some guys.
He has it figured out, so he's brilliant. And I think that matchup's one of the more intriguing matchups.
I just want Phil Jackson to come back and coach the Lakers.
It's not going to happen.
I know.
Spoelstra versus Pop.
But speaking of geniuses and like coaches that know what they're doing,
yeah,
I wish he could just put his brain inside. I don't know, some coach.
A younger man's body.
A younger man's
because
body.
his body can't hold up in NBA coaching season.
If like you could take someone as young as Spoelstra, like they did in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of having Kupchak, you had Phil Jackson at front office and just
running things.
Pat Riley from way down. Anyway, sorry.
No.
I'm getting depressed. But anyway, we're approaching about an hour here. We were gonna do a full NHL, but I have a question for you.
No, not full NHL. Full NHL.
Oh no, but I have a little NHL, but I have a question for you.
What is it?
So game one's Wednesday at 5,
Wednesday
right?
night.
What are you doing after the game?
Why?
Because I think.
You're scaring me with this.
I think. We've been gone for so long
mm-hmm.
that we should come back on Wednesday after game one and do like a more extended, because I feel like win or lose, I'm gonna get more of the Ranger fan Sean. And you know what? It's
bad.
Hold on. We've only kind of seen my like ranting and raving, and I kind of want to see a little, because Sean, like I said, Sean kind of keeps me dialed in.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty when I get dialed in like that.
I know. That's fine. I just want to see.
Like, I shout at the TV. Every power play when they don't score, I'm cursing.
Obviously, I don't understand. I called myself the Heckler in public.
It's true. It's true.
But
that would be fun.
I was going to say, I mean, we're going to do I want to say a real quick.
Just real quick preview.
But if you are up for it.
It could be fun.
Wednesday afterwards, come back into this little dungeon of dungeons.
Yeah.
And why don't you let me know before Wednesday, like we'll say tomorrow or tomorrow.
I'll have to plan a cool down meal before I come too, so I'm not too riled up. But, and it's in LA too. Ugh, New York, LA, like that's God.
I saw a stat.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a great transition into the series.
Done NBA Finals.
The first time a team from LA and New York has faced off for a championship since 1981, when the Dodgers and the Yankees met in the World Series. And not to put you in a sour mood before the series even starts.
No, not at all.
But in 81 the Dodgers won the World Series.
I do.
Okay, so I'm just saying the last time LA and New York face each other, I'll buy it, different sport.
I think it's fantastic for hockey.
It is.
It is the best case scenario for them.
Because here's the thing. I know a lot of Kings fans. I am not per se a hockey fan, but I watch.
Not many people out here.
I like to say this. This is what I like to say, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also because of Wayne Gretzky.
Yes.
Not just that I'm a Kings fan, but I don't watch. I like to say I don't watch hockey, but I like to watch playoff hockey.
Everyone should watch playoff hockey.
And people that don't watch any hockey at all go, "What do you mean, DK? You don't watch hockey?" And I'm like, "No, I don't watch playoff." But playoff hockey is different. Like, how so? Different. And I say, okay, you know how in the NBA sometimes like you go up and down. There's like no hand checking, all this like 115, 110 point games. Yeah. So when you get to the NBA Finals, especially the NBA Finals, you see more 96 to 105. 98 to 86 kind of games because the refs kind of let the defense get away with a little more things. Mm-hmm. And, that's because you don't want to wear yourself down after 82 games, throughout an 82 game series, I think. But in hockey, I feel like, and this is my own, because I've started to watch a little bit more regular season hockey because
it's different.
Well, no, here's the reason why. For me, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
The Sharks are an intriguing enigma in my mind, in so much as that
they're one of the best regular season teams out there.
No, that, and I love how I watch the people that watch the games as well, and like it's it boggles my mind, and I'm a Dodger fan.
Yeah.
And,
Oh,
I've seen a lot of self-hate and loathing.
You've seen the fans.
But I feel like Shark fans, like, for West Coast fans, they have this internal, like, loathing and almost self-hatred to the point of, like, it's almost Red Sox Cub fan-esque, where before the Red Sox won that World Series, or two, and the Cubs right now, in that when they were up 3-0 against the Kings, and
most of them knew something bad.
They went up. What was it, like 1-0, 2-0 in that game 4, real quick, like just real for a second.
I think 1-0.
Just like for a second they went up.
Yeah.
To a man on Facebook, literally to a man, all of my friends that were Sharks fans or just on my feed were just like, "All right, Sharks, don't blow it." And they didn't mean Game 4.
No,
they meant don't blow the series. And I'm like, you guys were up 3-0. You guys beat them 5-0 almost, or whatever it was in Game 3. You're up. It almost reminded me of. No, it didn't, because you guys didn't fear anything until there was like inning 7 of Game 7. Like, no, after the second Johnny Damon home run, I saw the fear. But before that, it was like, oh, we can score 7 runs, no problem. There's only like 7 innings left.
Well, I still hate Luis Gonzalez.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying though.
Yeah.
Like when you say that, you kind of have a little far away look, but it doesn't like pain you.
No, because we won again. But
exactly right. Whereas I feel like
the case for Sharks fans.
Sharks fans,
it's not the case for
like
them.
They could have swept the Kings. They could have swept the Ducks. They could have had the most historic run into the NHL Finals and had a 3-0 lead in the NHL Finals, up 1-0 with like 3 minutes to go in the game or a minute to go in the game, right?
And all those fans would have been like,
the opponent has their goalie pulled, and to a man, everyone's going to be thinking, all right, how are we going to get this game-tying goal?
What's going to happen?
How many overtimes are we going to lose in this game, 4, and what is that going to lead to?
Well, that's also the beauty of playoff hockey.
Exactly. No, exactly.
It happens like that. I mean,
because
you can have a 1-goal lead.
They were up 3-0. I saw them lose Game 4, and I was like, I wonder how the Sharks themselves are going to react.
How do they respond?
And they lose Game 5, and I was like, ooh.
Not well.
Then they lost a very close Game 6, and I was like, ooh. They still have their sanity right there.
And then Game 7 was a fucking blowout.
Kings came on in Game 7, just lights, guns blazing.
It was 4-0.
And you were like, you blinked your eyes and it was 4-0, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, this is the biggest collapse in, like, the history of hockey. Yeah. Now, having said that.
Yes.
I'm just going to go say real quick, make 3 points, and then you can, end it as however you want.
Yes.
1. I'm glad to see the Rangers back in the NHL Finals for the first time since '94. And '94 was a magical year.
Yes, it was.
Mark Messier guaranteed a lot of things, came through. He's basically the mayor of New York for life, basically, and for Hockey Town.
Pretty much.
So good, kudos.
Yes.
It was really exciting to see the Kings beat the Blackhawks, because I feel like that rivalry in the West might actually be something now the Kings are actually
past 2 Stanley Cup champs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I also think because the Kings actually manned up and beat Chicago while Chicago had that momentum going for them.
In Chicago.
In Chicago. Now, at the end point of that second point is they are the first team in history now to win 3 Game 7s on the road in one NHL playoffs.
That wasn't a Game 7, it was Game 6.
Was it Game 6?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. But I think it was clinching games in
I think it's clinching games.
Okay, that's what it was.
There is a stat.
Now, the third thing in my mind is Jonathan Quick's going to be Jonathan Quick. He's going to give up as many goals as he gives up and whatever.
Yeah.
He's just going to be him. I think the series hinges on the glove and little goalie stick of the Swede.
King Henrik.
The Swede. Because as we've seen in every one of these series that the Kings have been in, it really doesn't matter if the goalie's given up 3 goals or 4 goals. Because the Kings believe they can score 4 or 5 goals a game.
Yeah, they believe they can outscore you.
They can win a shootout. They feel like they can also out-hit you. And that kind of freaks me out, because I feel like the Ducks and Kings are now built like, teams from the East Coast, where they just hit you and hit you and hit you and hit you. And they force you to make a mistake because you're so tired of being hit that you make one mental mistake in front of the net. They recover the puck. They score 1. And they try to beat you 2-1, 1-0, and if they can't do that, they'll try to outshoot you and beat you 5-6 in an ugly game. are you scared that it hinges upon literally? I mean, I feel like just your goalie, whether your offense scores 3 goals, 4 goals, 1 goal, no goal, like it's literally going to be, what is it, 4-on-1 as they say in the aspect of. I feel like the Kings have 4 legitimate scorers that usually push up the ice.
If the game is in the hands of Henrik Lundqvist, I have no fear. I have no fear. All hail King Henrik.
Whether it's 4-4-0-0, you have no fear.
All hail King
Henrik. Overtime is not gonna.
All hail.
All right.
King Henrik. He's the man. He's been incredible this postseason, and
one would say the Olympic run has helped him.
He was fantastic in the Olympics too. I think something that goes to his legacy, which his legacy is building right now, and if he wins the cup, it'll be cemented. But something that goes to his legacy. The game 5 against Montreal.
Is that the one where he got pulled?
He got pulled. I believe he gave up 4 of the goals. We were doing the show that night.
Yeah.
And I didn't see the third period, but he got pulled. And I saw the first period, and he had given up 2 goals, and both of them were non-Henrik goals. Just like
little softies.
Things he should have had. Things he should have blocked. And he's sitting on the bench. You could just see he was just like, wow, what the fuck just happened? Like, that was not good. And it was in Montreal. And what does he do the next game?
Shuts him out.
A playoff series clincher shutout. That's the legacy of Henrik Lundqvist. Even when he has a shitty game, he'll come back the next game.
I'm just excited that I think I'd be excited if it was any of the 4 teams that would have made it. It was Montreal and New York, right, in the Eastern Conference.
I don't think Montreal would have been that excited.
And I would have been excited to see Canada excited. Because it's been a long time since NHL finals have been in Canada.
It has.
I mean, I feel like in that aspect, it would have been good for the NHL.
Yeah.
Because they would have either been facing Chicago or LA, 2 great American cities right now for hockey.
Any of the matchups could have done really well.
Yeah.
Because
so the NHL would have been happy either way.
If you look at it.
Because it would have been either a rematch from 93.
Rematch 93.
It would have been one of the, I feel like, one of the 2 of the older American hockey teams in the Blackhawks and the Rangers, or Blackhawks
or Los Angeles,
or LA versus either one basically.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, it's 3 of the biggest markets in the country, arguably the 3 biggest.
And the
Chicago,
4th one
LA,
that
New York.
and the 4th one that isn't, it's in Canada.
It's Canada. It's
and
Canadian
all of
hockey.
Canada will watch it basically.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of like about Canada and playoff hockey too. Is
they adopt the team
exactly, and it could be Toronto, it could be Montreal. I don't know if Ottawa still exists anymore.
Ottawa does. They suck.
Vancouver, but
Alfredson's not there.
But it's like
Calgary.
Once they're
the fucking Flames.
I forgot Calgary. God. There's 5 teams still in Canada.
5 Canadian teams.
Well, Canada, you're lucky. Still 5 teams. The NHL,
Calgary and Ottawa don't matter at all.
But they'll never go away.
No, they won't.
Because they're Calgary and Ottawa. That's anyway.
Oh, Winnipeg. The Winnipeg Jets.
They came back.
Yeah.
Go Jets.
Dustin Byfuglien. Fuck Canada. Look, we beat them. The Rangers beat them, okay? We're done talking about Canada. It's New York. It's the New York Rangers.
LA. New York, LA, basically.
And it's so great. I don't even care if the Kings have home ice or whatever you want to call it.
You know what? I feel like hockey is the one sport where home
ice doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all.
Because all the rinks are uniform and there's no logos in the rink at all. I mean, I guess in the middle maybe, but...
And the difference kind of is that, Montreal has its own history, but the arena, ice arena, not that big.
It's not the old arena anymore.
The United Center, that's that's Michael Jordan's territory.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not the Great Western Forum anymore, so the history really.
But I mean, recent history, the Kings had the Stanley Cup in Staples, so Staples has that aura.
But
no, let me finish this. Madison Square Garden is one of the greatest sports venues in the history of the world. So home ice doesn't matter that much because both venues have that kind of history. They have that allure. So as much as hockey doesn't matter,
I was going to say that unlike in most other sports, I feel like the aggression and hitting in hockey is intense as it is anyway, and the only difference between home and away is going to be which locker you're in, and
there's really no difference.
And whether the fans are yelling obscenities in cheering while cheering for you, or yelling obscenities while booing you.
Yeah, there's not any difference.
Yeah.
And weak teams that thrive on crowds, there aren't many in hockey.
They don't.
Then they're not going to do well on away ice. But
no, they're usually young teams.
Yeah,
they're usually really young teams.
The Kings and Rangers don't fall into that category.
the really young Montreal team, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago, that was an 8 seed that made an incredible
Yeah,
run.
they made the big run.
But they basically just fed off their home crowd. All they had to do was win one game on the road. And anyway, things like that.
So home ice doesn't matter
So,
as much.
Just to wrap it up in our thing.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the key. How many games?
Well, I think the Rangers win the series.
You think?
And it's kind of strange though, because you look at both teams' runs. The Kings have run the gauntlet. I mean, they were down 3-0 to their division rival. Kings and Sharks hate each other, and they came through that series. Then they played the Ducks,
Down 3-2,
which was Teemu Selanne's farewell tour, and they took it to him. And Jonas Hiller's no pushover. That guy's a really good goalie. And then they went up against the Blackhawks.
And for you guys in the East Coast and Midwest, I know it's called the Ducks and the Kings, but the hitting on that rivalry right now in the last 3 or 4 years, it's intense.
The Pacific Division or whatever.
Yeah,
There's a lot of
semantics about that.
Exactly. But
they don't like each other.
They went from Anaheim, Jonas Hiller, to Chicago, which their front two lines are two of the most talented lines I've seen in a while. And Corey Crawford, I mean, he proved it. He's a terrific goalie. He comes up in the clutch, and they beat him. You look at the Rangers run, we played shitty Philadelphia. Philadelphia's never had a good goalie. That's been their downfall a lot of the time. We played Marc-Andre Fleury, who's one of the most overrated goalies in all the time. And we went to Montreal, and Carey Price, one of the best goalies in the world, he might be top 4, gets hurt. And we play Tokarski, who's a rookie playoff. He's never played in a playoff game, and we beat him. Now we have to go up against Jonathan Quick. And this is our first real test in the playoffs, to go up against a legitimate Stanley Cup champion goalie. And I think that's what it's gonna come down to. I trust Henrik with my life, but if the Rangers can get to Jonathan Quick, which they can, Quick has looked invincible in this playoffs. He has looked at times.
Is it 2-3-2 or is it 2-2-1-1-1?
I think it's 2-2-1-1-1.
Oh.
Yeah, I think that's how it works.
That's how you get the most money.
It comes down to the Rangers' top line. If they can go up against the physical defensive line of the Kings, starting with Drew Doughty, who hits more than just about anyone. He plays offense too. It's going to come down to the top line against the top defensive line. The Rangers have gotten a lot of goals out of their third line. Matt Zuccarello has produced. Chris Kreider has produced. But the series is going to come down to Rick Nash coming together and playing as well as he can, which at Rick Nash's prime in Columbus, he was one of the best forwards in all of hockey. It's going to come down to Martin St. Louis, which is one of the greatest stories in hockey in a very long time.
Yeah.
Losing his mother a couple days before Mother's Day, scoring on Mother's Day, had a playoff overtime winner the other night in MSG. It's a great story.
When the Rangers made that comeback in the series,
yeah.
Literally every game they won, I was like, Sean must be like going nuts.
Oh my God!
Right
every game I've been going nuts. But I think it comes down to offense against the Kings' defense. I wanted this matchup. I did not want the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks' front two lines with Taves and Patty Kane and Marian Hossa and Patrick Sharp and their defense, Hjalmarsson, Duncan Keith scares the shit out of me.
I love how your Carolina comes out in hockey.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
The Kings' offensive line doesn't scare me that much, and I don't know why, because they're good.
I was gonna say
they are very good.
Shouldn't that worry you a little bit? That doesn't worry you at all.
It does, but it doesn't.
It does. I know for sure.
Dustin Brown's good. Jeff Carter has his moments, but Marian Gaborik, a guy who I love, he was the Rangers. He was the entire team a few years ago, and then they had to trade him for Rick Nash. Gaborik's going to play a huge role in the narrative of this final because he was a former Ranger. I don't fear the Kings like I do the Blackhawks. So
you think the Rangers going to win, though?
I think the Rangers win. I think it's going to come down to 6. And I think in Game 6...
I almost wanted to guess 6 because the way you were saying.
I think Game 6, Henrik poses another shutout. And I think that's how they win it.
And, I mean, I'm, the least informed NHL playoff predictor here for the finals.
You're hardly the least informed. Trust me.
Least informed in the room. Sorry, in the room. Least informed in the room.
And that's not saying much. I don't know that much.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate and say that the Kings win in 7. Just because that they've won so many games, so
they have the experience.
They're 7-0 in elimination games this playoffs, 2-0, whatever, 3-0 in the game 7s or whatever on the road or whatever.
You know who else is really good in game 7s? The New York Rangers.
New York Rangers. Yes.
You know who else is really good in game 7s? Henrik.
Oh,
Henrik has not lost a game 7 in his playoff career.
I'll say, wow. I'll say, immovable object, unmovable force, whatever that saying is.
Whatever.
Kings in game 7. I say exciting series. NHL benefits from having the East Coast West Coast finals.
The NHL is so happy right
and
now.
I think unlike last time the Kings won, where they had a strike and they couldn't strike while the iron was hot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, either way, whoever wins, it's gonna be a boom the next year for the NHL. Because I don't think they're going to be striking after this one.
Yeah.
So I think if the Kings win another one, which I think they do in 7, I think you see the NHL go in there this next year, and you see a lot more Kings games on TV, a lot more kind of push the stars on the Kings as faces in the NHL. And I think they're doing it this year, and like the last couple of years they've been doing it, but I don't think the recognition has quite been there.
It hasn't been so much Kings though; it's been more the stars.
Exactly. And I think because I think they kind of missed out on doing that the first time around when the Kings won for the first time in however many years.
Yeah.
Because they had a perfect window of opportunity to be like, see, Ducks and Kings.
Oh, they did.
Southern California, hot weather can succeed. Blah blah. The model is here, and then they went on strike.
And I want to say, I lived in North Carolina for a few years, and back then I was not big into hockey. I knew the Hurricanes existed, and I knew the Rangers existed.
They won a title before it.
Oh, yeah, I remember the Carolina Hurricane, Cam Ward. I fucking love Cam Ward. He's still around somehow, but...
He's still playing?
Oh, yeah. He was hurt this year, though. He didn't play very many.
He was old back when he was a Hurricane.
Yeah, Cam Ward, dude. He's still around.
He used to be a Bruin, right? Like,
I think
back in the 90s.
My point was, though, that I have family back east, mostly in New Jersey. I have family down in Florida. Hockey is huge in the Northeast. I mean, it is big time. That's a sport. You're going to see when the games go to MSG, that place is going to be packed with a bunch of really happy Rangers fans. Hockey's huge out there. Hockey's getting here out west. It's becoming bigger.
You know what I like about Kings fans, though?
It's becoming bigger. But the East Coast bias, and this is something we talked about in football and college basketball, the ranking system. East Coast bias exists, and it exists wholeheartedly in the Northeast. That's where the Rangers play. They acknowledge that the Sharks play. They acknowledge that the Kings play. They acknowledge the Ducks exist. They acknowledge teams like Dallas and Phoenix are in the league. They don't give a shit about what happens out west. Even with the Kings winning the Stanley Cup 2 years ago, Chicago, I mean, they are the Western Conference, but they're still very much East. The East just does not give a shit what happens in California hockey.
You know what? It's perfect that you said that, because that's why I love Kings fans. I feel like the last 5 years or so, since
the strike.
Since the strike, I would even say right before the strike, where they were making the run, where like longtime Kings fans finally felt free to come out and be like, "I'm a Kings fan." Oh god, But if you watch the finals games that they were in LA that year, and the last couple of years after the strike, the playoff games, I almost feel like a lot of Kings fans go out to those games. They know it's on TV, and they have this like almost Tim Duncan like chip on their shoulder, like fuck you East Coast. Look at this. We can do the whiteout. We can do the whiteout too here. We have towels. F your East Coast bias and this, that, and the other. You stay awake and watch our games. Like
LA is one of the teams that can do that.
But it's slow. Because the West Coast attitude's always been like, whatever. East Coast, do your thing, whatever. Yeah. And I feel like the more and more, like, say, my generation gets into our 30s, I feel like the chip's kind of growing more and more on the West Coast people. Because I feel like people like me and, like, say, your generation, like, our age, are going like, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, why not us? Why not us?
Yeah.
Like, why are we being ranked out of the top 5 and out of the top 10?
That's a lot of what happened the last 3 years with the San Francisco Giants. Our generation kind of saying, okay, well, why can't San Francisco be considered with the St. Louis's of the world and the AL East, everything like that? No, I completely agree. The Kings kind of have that chip on their shoulder, like, well, fuck the East Coast bias. Why aren't we in there? But I want to say the East Coast bias is real.
It is.
I mean,
it exists. It is real.
Yeah.
I know it.
And it's a shame because I think the more and more these Western Conference teams, like if the Sharks could actually pull their head out of their asses and make the playoff run that they're supposed to, then they would get the recognition. But I want to say, Father's Day weekend, I will be down in Fort Myers, Florida, with my grandparents and enjoying Father's Day down there. But
It's gonna be
it's gonna be so hot. My cousins from New Jersey are going down there. My cousin Corey goes to South Carolina, and my other cousin, his name is Daniel Ranger Steimel. He was born in 1994, the last time the New York Rangers won the Stanley Cup.
Of course he was.
And his father named him after the New York Rangers. So the Rangers run deep in my family.
I almost want to hear, like, be a fly on the wall in that argument where Ranger went from basically being maybe a first name to the middle name.
Yeah. I think it was pretty much like guaranteed a second name. I don't know if it was ever.
Because I'm pretty sure he came out and said, "Honey, I have a name. Yeah. What is it? Ranger? No. We have to. Middle name."
My aunt was a pretty big Rangers fan too. But the weird thing is Corey, huge New Jersey Devil fan because they live in Jersey.
Oh wow!
Which pisses he's like the black sheep of the family, but we don't.
Everyone has one.
Everyone has one. But I will be watching if the series goes 5. I will be watching Game 5. With my Rangers.
So that does it for this installment of In the Basement with Sean and the Heckler here in Studio A. It's good to be back. It's a little over an hour. We might be back on Wednesday. Who knows?
We might. We'll plan it.
Even if Sean says that he will be back on Wednesday, if like
you're gonna see a different name,
some weird way, like say the Rangers like say lose like 5-0, 4-0.
Don't say that.
I was gonna say I'll definitely give him a text like, hey, you don't need to like destroy Studio A. Let's not do this. But you know what? I feel like there's more of a chance of the Kings losing 5-0 in the first game. I don't know. It just seems like that's the playoff run that they're having.
I don't know, man.
Right?
It's gonna be a weird Stanley Cup final.
Before we sign off,
yeah.
If the Rangers go up 2-0, are you gonna be scared?
Oh my God, yes.
Like against the team that's been coming back the whole playoffs.
Look, I've been a Ranger fan. Let's say like a legit Ranger fan for like 4 years. I've never experienced anything like this. Like they've done well in the playoffs. But playoff success scares the shit out of me. Because, I mean, as a Yankee fan, like, when they're in the playoffs, I'm always scared, but I always have that kind of calming influence. Like, we'll do it. We'll pull it off. As a Ranger fan, this is new territory for me. I wasn't really around in 94. I was 1 year old, so we'll see. But, if they're up 2-0, of course I'm going to be scared. I'm going to be afraid until Henrik Lundqvist raises his fist in the air and says, I'm a fucking champion. That's when I stop being scared. Fair enough. So anyway, for Sean Steimel, I am David D.K. Kim. Once again, they call me the Heckler. Join us possibly on Wednesday. Hopefully. More than likely, though, we'll see you next Monday here in the basement. We're doing a mid-NBA Finals, mid-NHL. Sometime in the next 7 days, we will see you again here in the basement. We'll see you next week, probably around 5:30. You want to just somewhere just make that official 5:30 now instead of that 3 o'clock kind of. Why not? Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, once again, we will see you next week, and later. Bye. What, an hour 20? That was really good. It was. We covered 2 sports. We only did an hour and a half. So proud. I would see if it, goes all the way to 100% safe. Oh, it better. I know. You know what? I feel like the longer we do this, it's like there's a different process each time. That's a scary process. But I feel like when we first started, I was like, how do we get ourselves to sound this way? Now, how do we get here? And now that we have pretty much everything down packed, it's like, how do we get it not to glitch? Yeah. How is it not? We turn this off.